Hey everyone, I'm coming to you from Cambridge, Ohio. We're going to be taking a look at the Walmart and Aldi stores here so you can see a comparison between here and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We got a lot to kind of cover, a lot of shortages showing up here. This is a more rural area compared to the city areas that I kind of usually show you in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I think that this comparison will be really, really helpful so you can kind of see what's going on in different areas. Let's jump into it, folks. Aldi, and what we're seeing across Aldi and Cambridge, Ohio, is similar to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but more issues with fresh food, like yellow potatoes. Didn't have any of those on the shelf. Now, we did have some issues a while back with apple juice, right? And I just was kind of struck by how much apple juice they have now, and just that is not a problem anymore. We're not seeing any issues with apple juice. Most other fruit juices we're not seeing any issues with either. Just kind of wanted to point that out. So back to the produce section, no romaine lettuce. That's a pretty noticeable one right there. We've been having declining quality of all sorts of lettuces out there. Romaine lettuce tends to be the most visible. That and iceberg lettuce as to the quality out there. Iceberg lettuces were smaller than what we're used to seeing. Of course, that's been a thing that you guys have all been picking up on everywhere you are too. They did have rice here at the Aldi, so that was good. They had the white rice, jasmine rice, as well as basmati rice there. So that's lots of that. But they did have some issues with a few different kinds of pasta. Most of the pastas were well stocked, but a few of them had some issues. So there's a fatali, I think those are like the bow tie ones, aren't they? And then rotini. Rotini we've been seeing issues across the board with. They also did not have many egg noodles, so I don't know if they normally stock a lot of egg noodles. They had a lot of shelf space for the egg noodles, but then they just had one partially stocked box of them. The pasta sauces looked pretty good in general, but when we came over to the dairy section, I was interested to see this because I know Pennsylvania has a lot of like minimum requirements for pricing, and so I feel like our dairy situation is a lot better than a lot of places around the country. So coming over to Ohio here, I was expecting to see some impacts, and sure enough, they just didn't have sour cream. Aldi did not have sour cream, and that's a really noticeable thing there. That's not a small thing, right? And then also they didn't have imperial margarine sticks. Also, we saw the same issue over at Walmart. So we'll be seeing that in just a few moments here. You want to stick around for that. Over at Walmart, starting in the produce section, honeydew melons, didn't have any of those. Just walking through the fresh fruit and vegetable sections, just noticing just a lot of empty bins here and there. I see those in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania too. I don't often remark on them because, when 75% of the bins are filled, and you just kind of like, well, that's just, they fill the bins that they have stuff for. But just noticing that that's just kind of a continuing, ongoing thing out there. Grapes, we were having issues with grapes early in the season, right? As the California grapes were not coming up to snuff or fast enough, and the Mexican grapes were a little behind schedule as well. It looks like grapes are pretty much back on the shelves, generally speaking. The prices are higher than what we're used to seeing, but it is good to see them finally here. Asparagus, we are seeing. I've seen a number of you comment about how asparagus is having issues where you are, and just seeing an empty bin here of asparagus kind of clued me into that. That's not just you guys, that's here as well. We've been seeing issues with whipped topping. They seem to have disappeared in Pittsburgh. They were back on the shelf, fully stocked the last number of weeks I've been, but then coming here and just seeing not that much stocked. Just for your information, I was there around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday, so that's kind of what I'm seeing there. Also in the frozen food section, we're continuing to see lots and lots of holes. Actually, they were much more severe than what I see in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I don't know if they just restock the store less often or what's going on with that. Also, here's in the kind of the meat frozen section. cinna pastries, just kind of like the bread. I call them the breads in the section, in the frozen food section, and that's what we're seeing there too. With the self-contained meals, all those kind of things like Hungry Man, TV dinners, and stuff like that. Just they were pretty low stocked on a lot of them. We do want to thank our sponsor, Genesis Gold Group. If you have retirement funds that you want to get into silver, gold, or platinum, you can reach out to them directly, or there'll be a link at the end of the video. Just mention this channel. That way they waive the setup fees for you. So pizzas, frozen pizzas, they were just a lot less than what we're used to seeing there too. And then the peanut butter and jelly, frozen peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I don't understand why this is so hard to stock, right? But a lot of empty space there. Certain varieties of them. Totino's hot pockets or pizza pockets or whatever, those things. I mean, that's something that they don't usually run out of, and they only had a few bags left, and only of a certain varieties. That's pretty noticeable. You can't help but not to notice that. And like I said, this is in the afternoon, so I mean, there was still a wave of people coming home from work that were going to want to see food on the shelves, and here we are with the coffee section. A lot less of the Folgers and Maxwell House. That was kind of eye-opening to see very little generic coffee, as well as the Folgers, as well as Maxwell House. Just way less than what I'm used to seeing in Pittsburgh. The coffee creamers, powdered coffee creamers, seem to be doing pretty good. The empty spaces next to there was actually more coffee issues. So K-cups, not fully stocked for coffee, and but the coffee creamers looking pretty good. The pastas, different pastas, especially the boxed meals like Hamburger Helper. Now there did appear to be a bit of a sale going on here, but it wiped out the whole shelf. Not just the things that were on sale, but also the things next to it. There's just that's pretty big. And it was also spread out to non-on-sale items like Knorr sides. A bunch of the varieties were kind of out there. Just a lot of holes in that whole section of the canned and kind of the cheap meals. You know, like the mac and cheese and raviolis and stuff like that. Over in the pasta section, it looked a lot better. But a lot more name brand, not very many generics there. And then they were also seemed to be having some issues with egg noodles as well. But a lot of these varieties are kind of weird, and it just didn't seem like they had a lot of the mainline regular generics of great value. But I'm not here at this store very often, so just kind of checking things out there. The spaghetti sauce section, very little generics over here as well. And most of the holes that you see are the generic, where the generics would go. Great value pasta sauces of this and that. And just, they seem to be wiped out of that. If I had to take a stab at kind of what I'm seeing here at the Cambridge area, Ohio, it looks like just like the lower income people that are on a budget. It just seems like a lot more people have been forced down onto a budget recently, and so it just seems like the generics are just hard hit across the store. People are just making different budgetary choices out there. We're also seeing issues with peaches, canned peaches here, canned apples or jarred applesauce, also a little bit low there. I haven't really seen that much out there, but that's what I'm seeing here. Rice looked pretty good, but like I said, this is a rural store, so I'd expect to see a lot more rice options, a larger rice section like we are seeing here. But there definitely seemed room for more sacks of great value long grain rice. And there were only 3 bags that I could see there, and nothing behind them. So, and it looked like that space to the right of them was actually set aside for them. For those of you who kind of ask, like, what do you mean prepper section at the store? This is a rural store, so this is like 3 or 4 times bigger than my stores that I see. But this is what I'm talking about. You know, you got your number 10 cans, just like bulk items of a lot of things. Like that's a lot of bacon bits there, right? I mean, that's like a 1 pound bag of bacon bits or something like that, and big jugs of salsa and red hot sauce and giant jars of olives and pickles and stuff like that, giant jars of peanut butter and jelly and stuff like that. So this is kind of what I mean by a prepper section. And then they also sometimes have these little emergency food buckets there too. But this is helpful if you're going to buy in bulk. I mean, especially you grab some of the, a big jug of red hot sauce like I have. I've a number of those jugs sitting at home. Just kind of like, if I ever need some seasoning or flavoring, I can refill my hot sauce bottles out of that. And I mean, it'll last for a long time. So their canned meat section actually looked pretty good. They had plenty of Vienna sausages. They had Spam. There was less Spam than what I would expect to see. So I don't know if that's, we're starting to see that issue over in Pittsburgh, less Spam, and they're just kind of reorganizing things so you don't see an issue with that. They had lots of canned hams all around the board. Things look pretty well stocked here in the meat section. People pretty sensitive to that around here. Even the tuna fish was fully stocked, so good for them on that. Ramen noodles did not seem to be really tapped or anything like that, but maybe it wasn't fully stocked, but maybe by the end of the day it would be. I did notice that a bunch of the single serve packets seem to be eaten away by folks. So I don't know if people are just on a budget trying to stock up a little bit on that, and that's kind of what they're eating. It is cheap food, so people trying to save a buck might stock up a little more on those for snacks and for meals and everything. Flour section looked pretty well stocked. They were a little low on the gold flour, but interesting to see once again that their flour section was a lot larger than what I see in Pittsburgh. It's about twice the size of the flour section in the Pittsburgh. So rural areas have higher demand for flour than the city does. So the vinegar section, very hard hit. They had no generic apple cider vinegar in the jugs. If you wanted the organic kind, you have that. The more expensive stuff up top was there, but generic white vinegar, very low. Generic apple cider vinegar, and also even the name brand Heinz white vinegar was pretty low as well. So just seeing that pretty obviously. Vegetable oils fronted, so you can see there's a lot of empty space behind these bottles. So definitely issues out there with soybean oil, canola oil, all that as well here. Cereals looked a little low, but a little lower than what I see in Pittsburgh usually. Don't know what that means. If you guys have an opinion on what that means, let us know. It looked like the oats were just the oatmeal was a little low, but then again, I don't know how much they stock out here. Water bottles, their pallets were kind of low on the bottled water, and then also even I didn't really get a picture of the jugs up top, but they're kind of low on spring water in the gallon jugs. But getting bottled water like that's kind of not as critical. And then just some of the sports drinks were a little low. Kind of noticed that. When it comes to milk, I was wondering if there would be a significant difference as opposed to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, because once again the subsidies in Pennsylvania. But yeah, a little bit low on milk, but not terribly so. It looks like you have plenty of options there. Whole milk was the worst off, but like I said, there's still a bunch of jugs there. Now it would have been interesting to see what it looked like at the end of the day, though. So, but I wasn't there at the end of the day. Imperial sticks of margarine were also missing here, so that was interesting to see. I'm not sure if there's some issue that's just got cropped up with Imperial margarine sticks. Also, we have some issues with some of the cream cheeses, but that's not mission critical just yet. But I'm starting to keep an eye on that because I'm starting to see some hiccups here and there. Eggs, $1.24 for a dozen. That's about comparable to where it is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So interesting to see that. Creamers looked a little bit better stocked than what they do in Pennsylvania. But as you can see, some holes and some spotty stocking of some of these things. Bologna, some of the bolognas and some of the lunch meats seem to be out of stock. Not terribly so. Some of the hot dogs were a little lower stocked. These were not on sale. I don't know if they just didn't stock them again or what's going on with that. Maybe they're getting ready to change that bin over to something else. It's possible too. All right, folks, let us know what you guys are seeing at your stores. Use the word update and a comment on any one of the videos on this channel and give some sort of geographical location as to where you are when you saw the things that you saw. Thanks so much for watching. There's a video up on the screen, and there's also a link to Genesis Gold Group to get some more information. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.